These are the 10.4 notes for Trig. We're going to talk today about graphing, cardioids, and limacons. So cardioids, limacons, and limacons with a loop, each of them has a very similar equation. So you know something is a cardioid because the two numbers in the equation are the same. So I just like to call that same. Just to remember that I have the same number in both locations. And the plus and minus here tells you that it could be either positive or negative. So positive 4 and negative 4 still are going to count as the same number. Then for the limacon without the loop, your A, so your first number, is going to be larger than your smaller number. A is larger than B. A is greater than B. So I like to read these as big plus and minus small. So the big number A is first, the small number B is second. And again, that works for sine or cosine. Again, we disregard the plus or minus, so it doesn't matter whether the numbers are positives or negatives. We just think about the absolute value of them and then compare. If you have a limacon with a loop, it means the first number, the A value, is smaller than B. So I read that as small plus and minus big. Other than that, the equations could be the same. You could have either cosine or sine. So let's see if we can figure out some of these. So for each of these, you have 3 steps, and you're not going to have to make a table the way we did on the note page before this, where we investigated the graphs and plotted every point by hand. So I'm just going to show you the 3 steps, and then we're going to practice doing some of this on Delta Math so you're comfortable graphing it. So step number 1, it says determine the shape. So we look at the A and B, and we use the chart above to decide which of these 3 categories it is. So let's go ahead and do that for example number 1. I have a 2 and a 6. So again, I'm only focused on the 2 and the 6. I don't care about the minus in the middle. I don't read that 6 as a negative 6. I just read 2 and 6. So my smaller number is first and my bigger number is second. So small, big, that would fall into this category right here, limacon with a loop. Small number first, big number second. So limacon with a loop. Now the maximum and minimum we get, step number 2, find the max by adding the numbers and the minimum by subtracting the numbers. We want to make sure we ignore any negatives. So again, think about those as a 2 and a 6, not 2 and negative 6. So we add the 2 numbers together, 2 plus 6, and I'll write that right above here so you can see what I'm doing. 2 plus 6 gets me 8. And the minimum, I subtract them. I don't worry about any signs or any negatives. So I'm going to do the big one minus the small one, 6 minus 2 to get 4. You could also do 2 minus 6 to get negative 4, but again, we ignore any negatives. So it would just turn to positive 4. All right, now this next part has to do with the sign, like the minus here in the middle, as well as the cosine. So the fact that this is a negative right there is going to tell me that it's on the negative. And then the fact that it's a cosine tells me it's on the x-axis. So if you think about shifting this, it would go negative on the x-axis. So the loop would actually end up somewhere over here, towards the left, negative. So similar to process how we did our circles a couple days ago. All right, let's look at example number 2. I have a 3 and a 2. Again, only focus on the 3 and the 2. Ignore the negative in front of the 3. So I have a big number first and a small number second, which would give me a limacon. No loop. You could write no loop, or you could just leave it as limacon. To find the maximum, I'm going to add the numbers together. So 3 plus 2, giving me 5. Again, ignoring any negatives I see. The minimum, I'm going to subtract them. 3 minus 2. That'll get me 1. Then the plus in the middle tells me that this is on the positive. And the sign tells me that's on the y-axis. So if you think about where this graph is going to shift, it's going to be up in the y direction, positive in the y direction. So you'll have your graph kind of look something like that. Example number 3. I have a 3 and a 3. Those are the same, which would make this a cardioid. Add the 3's together to get 6. Subtract the 3's to get 0. And that minimum of 0 is what comes in to make that part of the heart that comes all the way in like that. That's going to be that 0. All right, and then the maximum. The maximum is on the negative. All right, so negative tells me it's either going to go down or left. And then sign is the y-axis. So that means it's going to go down. So you'll have your cardioid and it'll be kind of somewhere down here. Again, apologize for my drawings, but just to kind of show you where they would end up. So you can see it on actual delta math. Let's go ahead and flip over to the back side. We're going to graph these on delta math. So take a moment here to go to your delta math, and you should see an assignment that says 10.4 notes examples. And click on that. So right here, 10.4 notes examples, and we'll be ready to do these 3 together. Okay, so if you're not there yet, feel free to pause, get yourself started, get yourself settled into delta math, and then pick up when you're ready. So in delta math, you have 6 options as to what shape you're working with. We now know how to graph all of them except that very first one we'll learn later. So this one, second one you have is a circle, then the limacon with a loop, the cardioid, the limacon with a no loop, which looks very much like a circle, so be careful there, and then of course the line at the end. For today, we're just going to be focused on your limacon with a loop, your cardioid, and your limacon no loop. All right, so I have a 5 minus 3. 5 is big, 3 is small. So this is a regular limacon no loop. So I'm just going to write limacon. Maximum I'm going to get by adding the numbers together. 5 plus 3 is 8. Minimum I'm going to get from subtracting them. 5 minus 3 is 2. Because of this minus in the middle right there, it's going to happen on the negative. And then cosine is always x, so it's going to happen on the negative x-axis. So we should see we should plot the point so that it's shifted to the left. Negative x-axis is going to be to the left. All right, so let's pull up delta math. Go to example 4. Should read 5 minus 3 cosine, just what we have. We said it was a limacon no loop, so it's going to be this one right here. I'm going to try to go nice and slow so you can work on your delta math at the same time you're trying to watch me do the delta math here. So I'm going to select the limacon, and you'll see that delta math draws it for us. So we're going to bring our larger side around here. There it goes. We're going to bring our large side, the maximum, which is going to occur on the negative x-axis, so over here, and we said it was at 8. So I'm going to bring it all the way out to the 8 on the negative x-axis. And then I can adjust this, which will be on the other side. You'll see you won't be able to actually bring it in. It'll actually bring out to the other side, and you'll have a minimum of 2. So the maximum goes on the negative x-axis, and then our minimum just goes on the other side of it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks perfect. And then we can submit answer. And it shows us we've done it correctly. So again, the max is on the negative x-axis over here. And then the minimum just happens on the other side of it. All right, let's switch back to our paper. We're going to look at example number 5. Graph r equals negative 4 plus 4 sine. I've got a 4 and a 4, which means these are the same, which means this is a cardioid. Add the two together to get the maximum of 8. Subtract to get a minimum of 0. And the maximum is going to happen on the positive. And sine is y. So it's going to happen on the positive y-axis, meaning the 8 is going to go on the positive y-axis. All right, let's graph that one. Example number 5. Negative 4 plus 4 sine. So we'll select the cardioid, which is this one right here. Again, it doesn't have a nice end of the heart like it normally does on our papers, but it's that cardioid here. You'll see it graphs it like that. And then we're going to take our only point that we have, that's going to be our maximum, because notice the minimum is already set to 0 here. And we're going to move that to our positive y value. So positive y-axis is going to be up. And we're going to just take this and move this out to the 8. 5, 6, 7, and 8. There we go. And you actually can't drag anything else around. So as long as you put that maximum in the correct place, it draws the rest perfectly for you. So go ahead and make sure that you try that on your Delta Math. Make sure you're getting how to do all this. And submit when you're ready. And one more time, that's what it should look like. All right, let's try example number 6. We have a 2 plus a 3, which means you've got a small one, and then a big one, which means you have a limacon with a loop. Add the two numbers to find the maximum of 5. Subtract them to find a minimum of 1. Again, disregarding any negatives. So even if you do 2 minus 3 to get negative 1, ignore the negatives, call it positive 1. All right, and then let's figure out where we're going to put the maximum point. It's a positive. And it's a cosine, which is x. So we're going to make sure our maximum, the 5, happens on our positive x-axis. Switching over to delta. Moving on to the next problem, example number 6. It's got our problem right here, 2 plus 3. We're going to select the limacon with a loop, which is this middle one here, the third one from the left. And you'll see how it shows up. There's 2 points we get to adjust this time. So we'll put the maximum in the right place first and then adjust the minimum. So it says the maximum is on the positive x-axis. Positive x-axis is this direction over here. So I'll take our point and we'll move it over to get to the 5. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. And try to get it as close to that, right on that line as you can. Double check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that looks good on my positive x-axis. And my minimum right here should be at 1, which it looks like it already is, but notice how you can move it if you need to. So just go ahead and keep that back at 1, but you do have to adjust. It doesn't automatically go to the correct place. All right, make sure everything looks nice and on the lines. And then hit submit. And if you don't get it correct the first time and have to readjust, it's fine. On these, I make sure I gave you plenty of attempts. And I'll do the same on the homework for Delta Math. So in case you mess something up, you can correct it. All right, that's it for that note page. Nice job.